What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. We have a lot to talk about, Tim.
That is true.
We have missed a lot because we were on Christmas break.
That's right. This is actually our first day back in studio to record the podcast in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we obviously had episodes for you guys as we promised.
Yes.
So, but now that we're back in studio, of course, Happy New Year, continued Happy New Year.
I know. We're like 2 weeks in.
That's right. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about because we've missed a lot. As we
Yes.
talked about before we left, we were going to have a lot when we came back. So a little bit of Hawkeye, a little bit of Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yep.
Everybody knows what happened there.
First 2 episodes of Boba Fett.
First 2 episodes of Boba Fett.
And
There's a lot more stuff, but those are
there's-
the 3 we're going to get to today.
Those are the 3, right? Because you know I'm all about Cobra Kai. That came out.
That's
Witcher
right.
Season 2.
I have not seen either of these 2 things, but you keep talking about it.
Sad.
I know. I did see, I saw the first season of Cobra Kai and actually really enjoyed it. So
fun.
I
It's a lot
got
of
to pick
fun.
it back up.
But anyway, Tim, let's start with probably with the granddaddy of everything that's happened since we went on break. We went on vacation, and that has got to be Spider-Man No Way Home.
Without a question.
That was literally
a big deal.
That kicked off. I don't know if it kicked off your vacation, but it kicked off my vacation, or pretty much kicked off my vacation because it came out the Friday or Thursday of the first week of our break.
Hit theaters the 17th
Yeah.
officially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it the 18th officially and we saw it on the 17th? One or the other.
Yeah, doesn't matter anymore.
We saw the release
Yeah.
date. So whatever
Yeah.
the Thursday night was, yeah. You saw it here in Texas and
Yep.
I saw it in South Florida.
And well, first of all, spoilers. Obviously, this movie's been out for weeks.
Yeah, but
still, spoilers, because there's lots of spoilers.
There's a million spoilers for this movie, yeah.
Although I'm gonna get right to it. With that said, spoilers. So everyone who wants to not hear spoilers, hopefully you're gone. You got your warning. I'm bummed out that basically all the rumors were true.
Yep.
Like we talked about that. We were like, it's
That
gonna
was my worry.
We're gonna be disappointed just because it's like, how cool would it have been to had no idea going in, and you see Daredevil in the movie, you see a Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield having not even an inkling, but we, you know, with all the rumors and pictures, like, yeah, it's probably gonna happen. And I was actually kind of hoping the opposite, that they weren't in the movie. That way, you know, it would have gone somewhere else,
Right?
And only because, again, it was like, it was cool, but it's like as soon as that portal, you know, Ned opens that portal and you see, you know, a Spider-Man in the alley, you're like, well, obviously, this is it. This is the moment. But I will say, the theater I was in was still like, woo, and clapping a little bit, but it's like, and I was happy too to actually see it. And even though you hear it, you know, it's like, it's real, but it did take away a lot of like the shock and awe factor a little bit, where I'm like, okay, this is cool though.
Yeah. In fact, and speaking of, you know, I've talked about many times, that was one of the big things that I was super excited about this movie for. As I've repeated numerous times, I have really missed that big opening night with all of the fellow fans, you know, Marvel fans, when you go there and the theater erupts when something surprising or exciting happens. I have really missed that. It's just such a fun aspect of our community. And this movie gave us that. And in fact, in the theater I was in, when certain things started happening, I knew that's where I was going to go, so I recorded. So I recorded my theater so you guys can see. This is a little bit of what I was missing in theaters.
Find Peter Parker! Are you okay?
So that right there was so fun. I couldn't help but laugh when I was sitting in the theater, and you said you experienced the exact same thing in the theater you were in.
Well,
here
with Matt Murdock when he showed up, and then obviously the 2 Spider-Men.
When Andrew Garfield, I don't know about you, but when Andrew Garfield walked through his portal, that was the biggest response.
Oh, because he was the first one. He was the first one to come through.
In there, because it was like confirmation of it's true.
Yes.
It's happening. You know, that sort of thing. And then Tobey Maguire comes through shortly after, and it's like this another eruption from the audience and stuff like that. But that's the stuff, man, it makes these movies so fun. You know what I'm saying?
To be there with your peers.
Yeah, to just be there with the community and everybody experiencing it together. And even when, like we said, in this instance where we were already unfortunately kind of tipped off about all this stuff, it still just made it so fun to experience that together and get the confirmation of like, yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yep.
These characters are back. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it makes, again, you had all the villains from, those other Spider-Man movies. So it's like, no duh. But I'm still bummed out, dude. I'm still as cool as it was, because I was telling my friend who I went to the theater with, I'm just like, as I'm seeing it happen, especially in the third act when they're all fighting together, all three Spider-Man fighting together, I'm like, I can't believe what I'm watching right now. Like, this is actually happening. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is one of those, like, in your wildest dream moments where really they're actually putting, like, three generations of Spider-Man essentially on the big screen together.
Yeah.
Because Tobey Maguire, like, that, what was I think I was, like, again, 12 or 10 when that came out, when his first Spider-Man movie came out, and then he did 3 movies, and then a few years after that, we had Andrew Garfield. It's just crazy. Like, 3 different live-action Spider-Man on screen. Every single live-action Spider-Man was on screen at the same time, which was really, it was just awesome to see. It was like, even with the villains and stuff, like, just seeing, like, Jamie Foxx as Electro, Sandman,
seeing them
Doc
fight
Ock,
alongside each other.
William Dafoe, Green Goblin, which was phenomenal in the movie. Just all of it was like, this is awesome. So I was still geeked out, still nerding out, still loved it, but I can't help but think still how much more that would have been if people would have just kept their mouths shut. I'm so tired of I said it before. I'm so tired of, like, this internet, like, nerd culture we have, in the sense of, like, people try to have to, like, reveal the plot or the twists before the movie comes out. It's like, why does everyone want to, like, know the big reveal? Like, it's going on with Boba Fett right now. People are trying to figure out how the season finale. I just stay away
from it as best as I can.
Like, it's so annoying. There's so many people, like, trying to figure out, like, what's the big secret in the finale of Boba Fett? Is it Han Solo? Is it this? Is it Thrawn? Like, it's like, stop looking for leaks and enjoy it. Like, don't people just want to watch it and enjoy it? Why do you want to figure it out, like, episodes before it happens? Yeah. Like, it makes no sense to me. That's like, you're sabotaging yourself. It's like, you not want to have that moment of, like, that's cool. You'd rather be like, oh, see, I said that a month ago. I was first. Like, who cares?
I think if you do it in theory, like, we love doing theory.
Right. Yeah.
Doing theory episodes,
yes,
talking
that's
theory.
Different. Yes.
That's totally different animal. We're not talking about if you, like, theorize. That's part of the fun of being a geek.
That's what we do here on the podcast.
Yeah. That's part of the fun of it is being sitting around and saying, what if this, what if that? It's this actual pursuit of getting spoilers,
like Reddit leaks and stuff like that, where
leaking them to the public.
People trying to reach out to people who worked on set and stuff like that to actually reveal things. It's going on with Boba Fett now. Batgirl's currently filming the movie. They're trying to get leaks for that. It's like, why? Because, it's like, I know this person who was, like, a PA on the set, so they saw this, and now that means this, or I know someone who's a writer for this. Like, just no.
And
like,
you have two camps.
Theorize.
You have two camps. You have the people, the fans who try to avoid spoilers at all costs. They want to go on for the ride.
That's me.
That's me too. And then you have this other, I think, much smaller group who they just want to know. And then it's like because you have all the media organizations, just in a rush to be the first, the first one there, and they don't want to be, one-upped by anybody else. They catering to that, what I think is the smaller group, which is, the people that they just want to know. And so but it gives those the media arms that actually will release that stuff, no matter how big or small they are. It gives them the justification because there's an audience for it.
It's so weird.
But it's hard to avoid.
I know, but
once it leaks,
it's even weird that there's an audience for it, right? Because it's like you said, people, I would assume, only try to do it because if they get it first, or they're the ones that break the news, they're going to have a lot of traction on their website or their social media or whatever. But it's like, who are the people who are seeking out, like who are the people who want to know these spoilers?
I don't know.
I mean, that's weird. Like, why do you want to know?
Well, like, for instance, there's, like, my wife. My wife does not care about spoilers.
That's crazy.
She just doesn't care. She doesn't seek them out.
Right.
But if she sees that they're there, she'll be like, oh, she'll just read it.
That's crazy.
And she'll be like, yeah, I read an article. I was like, why would you do that to yourself? She's like, I don't care. Dude. I'm like, it's coming out next week or whatever. And she just does not care about that. And so, I think a good part of it's not like this, oh, I have to know for some of them, but some I think there is. I've actually met some people. I just want to know.
Right.
But others, it's just they just don't care about spoilers.
It's so weird. But anyway,
it's fun for them at any point, I guess.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, Like, I'm 100% with you. That was my biggest lament. We talked about it on the phone right afterward.
Mm-hmm.
That was my biggest lament. As I came out of there, I was like, it was so fun, but there were no surprises left except one. There was one big surprise in there that everything else, all the other major stuff.
We can say it. We said spoilers.
Yeah, Aunt May dying in the film.
Yeah.
Aunt May's death in the film was the only surprise for me. Everything else was
You didn't think that's because the next thing I was going to say, because, well, first, for anyone wondering, just normal thoughts, I love the movie. Absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is, I have only seen it once still, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Next time I probably see it will be digital coming here in a few weeks when they release it on digital. Mm-hmm. But it's probably, just with the ones, I'll solidify it when I see it a second time, but I would imagine it's probably my favorite live action Spider-Man movie. I mean,
it's hard. I would imagine as a Spider-Man fan, it would be hard for this movie not to be.
Right, because it's got everything.
Well, if for nothing else, the Spider-Verse aspect of it with the 3 Spider-Men fighting together.
It's got all. It's literally got every, because we did we ranked all the Spider-Man films in a previous podcast, and it's like this movie has all those guys. Literally, the villains, the Spider-Men. All of it. It's only missing Kirsten Dunst, MJ, and a few little characters here and there. But for it's got all the big pieces. It's got the villains and it's got the Spider-Man. Yep. It's like, what else? What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, it hit a lot of really great buttons, and I just thought all the way from beginning to end, I thought they did a great film. It was one of the more purely entertaining Marvel films to date.
Yeah, and it was by far the best one this year, which is like kind of a no-brainer. Yeah. But like it's funny though, because when watching this, you realize like, oh right, like this is a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? It's like this is like, okay, so it puts other movies like Eternals and other things into like a little bit of perspective.
Well, there's always been kind of tiers of Marvel.
There has
movies, because you have like the one-off solo films, and then you have the big marquee Marvel films like Civil War and the Avengers films and stuff like that. This felt more like it was in the realm of like Civil War or Avengers film.
Because I really enjoyed Black Widow, minus the one aspect, and I really enjoyed Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah,
like I think
Shang-Chi's
as far
amazing.
As this year, it's like obviously Spider-Man No Way Home, and then Shang-Chi is like second.
Right.
Shang-Chi is great. So yeah, that's true. I guess what it is, we haven't had a big like Avengers-esque Marvel movie in a while.
Oh. Like years.
It's been like Endgame was the last one, right? So this was the most recent, like, oh, okay, we're finally getting like another huge team movie, where
it felt like that.
It felt like that. Yeah. Oh, you got Doctor Strange with Spider-Man, but then the team where it's literally a team of Spider-Man.
Right.
You had Andrew and Toby there with Tom. So it was, and then all the villains, like a team of villains. That was freaking great. That was crazy. That's like the most villains we've ever gotten in a movie.
They did not complete the Sinister Six though.
They didn't.
We thought that there's 5, so maybe they're gonna. That would be one. One of the surprises that were left on the table, we thought maybe there's going to be Vulture.
Yeah, he wasn't in it.
And he was not in it at all.
Which tells us the reshoots he mentioned on Kimmel, I believe, is for Morbius.
Has to be.
Because where else, unless there's some super secret thing we don't know of.
And we know he's in that film already.
Yeah, so, you would have to imagine it has to be that, again, unless there's something we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, he's a busy guy because he's in Flash. He's actually going to be in the Batgirl HBO Max movie, and he's continuing Vulture. So
I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, I love that he's in the limelight again because I love me some Keaton. But I really, really enjoyed this movie. I don't really have a complaint about. Do you have a complaint about this movie besides the spoilers? Spoilers don't count. That was people spoiling it. That wasn't Marvel's or Sony's fault. But like, is there something you would change? You think?
Change? No. I mean, there was a couple small minor things, but nothing worth
like nitpicky things, right?
Yeah, nitpicky things that is like not really worth mentioning.
The biggest thing for me, there was a shock because I was saying obviously Aunt May's death was a big thing where they essentially made her like the Uncle Ben, for Tom Holland. But more so than that was at the end, like they essentially like rebooted Spider-Man in the MCU in a sense.
In a lot of ways,
and you kind of also realize that his first 3 movies were like an origin story.
Yeah.
Like that, like all the stuff still happened, like in Civil War and Endgame, like Spider-Man was Spider-Man, but now like no one knows who he was. So history was rewritten in the sense that like, if you go back to Endgame, no one knew who he was. He was Spider-Man and he was there, but I guess he had his mask on or they just forgot. So it's crazy. So now like he was established in all these movies and he was essentially, Iron Man Jr. as everyone calls him. Even I said, which is funny. I'm gonna get there in a second. to now being brought back down to your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, where in the
Yes.
last like minutes of the film, he makes his own costume, which is very John Romita Jr. or Senior rather costume, the bright blue, very classic. So now he's like ground level. No one knows who he is. He lives in a dirty apartment again. Like he is Spider-Man from the jump, which I thought was funny because remember I told you my complaint. Well, my only minor complaint with Tom Holland in this universe was he was just like too techie. I'm like, Spider-Man needs to be more. He's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He needs to be more ground level. Stop with all these like Iron Man suits and Iron Spider suit. Just give him web shooters and his normal costume, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, he basically just abandons it.
Yeah,
kind of like at in Homecoming, where he's just like, I just want to be kind of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for a while. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, in Infinity War,
he had to. It's like, I got to go in space. I need a suit.
So, yeah, it's like they reset everything back. I think if there's any minor complaint that I had, that is worth noting. Now, because now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, there's one thing that I will note. Is it's about the timelines and everyone forgetting who he is. Mm-hmm. Like, they brought so they explained all the villains appearing in this world with the multiversal fracture when Peter Parker screws up Doctor Strange's spell as he's casting it, trying to make everybody forget that he's Peter Parker. And he keeps coming in and trying to say, okay, no, I need this person to know. I need that person to know. And that screws up the spell. And it fractures and it says, okay, all of these people who know who Peter Parker is enter into their world, right? So it's a select group. But everybody in the group had died, except what I think the lizard. Does the lizard doesn't die? He gets arrested.
Yeah, he gets cured.
Yeah, he gets cured and he gets arrested. So, but Doc Ock dies. Green Goblin dies. Electro.
It was a big point of this film actually. That's the reason why Tom I call him his real name, Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Was doing everything he was doing.
So that was one of the things that I was like, and again, this is very nitpicky because I get this is a superhero film, so you have to suspend disbelief. And anytime you introduce a multiverse, it gets a little sticky. Gets a little bit
with time travel or the multiverse,
So, because what I'm trying to say is, and this is why it kind of bothered me, is because certain characters were extracted from their multiverse at different periods of time. They weren't just messing with the multiverse; they were messing with time, and they didn't really get into that because they didn't really explain, like, well, why would certain characters have been removed from their multiverse just as they're about to die? Because some of them didn't even find out he was Peter Parker till right before they died. Yeah. Right. So it's like, why would they have all of a sudden come through? You know what I mean? So why would these characters have been plucked from their multiverse at various points in time? And then when everyone at the end forgets that he's Peter Parker, which everything around that I thought was really great. How he chose to sacrifice everything that was important to him to protect the people he cared about and all that kind of stuff. So all that was great. But it kind of left me like, yeah, but if everybody knows that there's a Spider-Man, right? And you had all these people that fought with him, and there's all kinds of video footage of him as Peter Parker.
Not anymore.
You know what I mean?
It's erased.
Yeah, so it's like some of that was a little bit sticky. And again, I'm going to get like a million responses to this of like, no, you see, what happens is, I'm fine. And I get it. Like there's a way to justify and explain or whatever, but it did seem a little bit convoluted. That was really my only.
It's very similar to the Devil's Reign story in Marvel right now.
A little bit.
Where the whole thing with that is what starts off the feud with Kingpin, and who's now the mayor of New York City, and the New York street level heroes is Daredevil inadvertently had Killgrave's children, Purple Man, erase Daredevil, Kingpin's memory. Yeah. So he doesn't know, like one of his superpowers is he knows that he has like blackmail on everybody. So he no longer knew who Daredevil was, and he, that pisses him off, thinking like, you're trying to like, one up me here. Like, I don't know who you are anymore. Like, what'd you do to me? So that makes him like start like essentially the Registration Act, where he's outlawing like all superheroes in New York. But it's kind of like that in the sense where like someone does something, and now because in the book, in the first issue, he puts down files that he had on Daredevil. He's like, these are the files I had on you. They're blank. They're empty now. They're just paper. Right. What is this joke? So I'm imagining like that in the MCU where like with him with Doctor Strange messing with everything, it's like now all the footage is just no longer exists, it vanished, or it's blank, or it's blurry, it's out of focus, and now they can't tell. Where it literally just rewrites everything. Yeah. So
I mean, I get it. Again, you're dealing with magic, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is it felt kind of convoluted, and there's certain aspects of it, particularly the time thing. I was like, that didn't make a ton of sense to me, but that's probably, again, that's a nitpick, and it's probably looking a lot closer at it than I need to.
I will say another thing that's kind of shocking is we were all suspect of Doctor Strange. There was nothing fishy with him.
At least that we know of yet.
Yeah, in this movie, he was just Doctor Strange. Although, that was one of the things I said to you, even though he was just plain old Doctor Strange in this movie, at times he felt a little out of character for what we've seen in previous films from him. Did you agree with that? I don't remember.
Very much so.
Okay.
It was a little bit more playful. It wasn't quite as exaggerated as some of the changes that we've seen from Thor over the years, but it was kind of like knocking on that door at times.
Yeah.
But, but there was other times it was totally normal.
Yeah.
Where he was just being Stephen Strange. But this movie also told us pretty early, and they made a point to tell us that he is not the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yes.
That Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme, which explains some of the things that have been going on with Wong and why it was him that appeared at the end of Shang-Chi and not Stephen Strange. Because Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme.
It's crazy.
Yeah, when they were evaluating the actual
I love how they left
rings.
that out in that thing.
Yeah, yeah, but they told you right up front, and Wong he's real busy doing something.
He's in and out, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, Steven's like in freaking sweats.
Yeah, exactly.
Hot cocoa.
Yeah, and then at the end, of course, we get the post-credit. Instead of a scene,
I was gonna bring that up.
We got the big reveal of the Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness trailer as our first look. Of course, that's been out a while now. Everybody's seen it. It's on YouTube and everything. But that was our first real look at that. And even that, I'm interested to hear your opinion. I don't know that we've talked about that fully yet, but what that looks like is even different than what I expected.
Yes, it does look very different, and I was a little underwhelmed, to be honest, from the teaser we've seen, where I'm like, I don't know where things are going anymore, and it's like I told you, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to guess, because every time we even with No Way Home, we thought that was going to be the lead-in to.
I mean, in a way, it is.
In a way, it kind of is, but a bigger lead-in where like it wasn't going to get resolved.
Right.
Everything was going to be cracked open, and that literally led it to the Multiverse of Madness. Where from the teaser we've seen, we could assume that like doing that spell just messed something up, and now something is happening that he has to fix again. Not
or it was his. It was just his. And this is what I took from it. That it was his first real glimpse at the threat of a multiverse, of the multiverse itself, and him feeling like, hey, there's
now
a problem.
Now he has to try to fix it.
Yeah.
Or like seal
there's
off
a problem.
Things. Yeah. I mean, you see like towards the end of it too that like the evil Doctor Strange or Strange Supreme. Rather from the What If series, so maybe that's him. But we already know from the Hasbro release of the Marvel Legend action figures for the movie that Doctor Strange is going to don a new costume that's red and black, looks very much like the Eternals costume, and he will be going by the name Defender Strange.
Yep.
So, I mean, because he's not the Sorcerer anymore.
No.
But I would think that by the end of that movie...
Well, he's not the Sorcerer Supreme yet.
That's what I meant. He's not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore, so I would think at the
well,
end
he
of that
never
movie,
was.
What?
He never was.
In the MCU?
No.
Yes, he was.
No, he never inherited the title.
Oh, he never did. That's right. Well, he was going to, but he left. They say it in the movie.
Yep.
But he was gone for 5 years, so Wong had to take it.
So it was Wong.
Oh man. So by the end of Multiverse of Madness, I would think he'd finally get the Sorcerer.
You would believe, but that means that Wong eventually has to die.
No, he doesn't have to die. He could give it up. Maybe they can fix it somehow.
I guess. I don't.
I love Wong.
I guess we'll see how that plays out. But from everything that we've seen. The Sorcerer's there's not a new Sorcerer Supreme that takes the place until one dies.
Magic.
I
don't know how. I mean, it was very interesting to me that American Chavez is in the film. That is freaking weird. I was not expecting that. That threw me for a loop. I'm like, really? That's a very strange pull. But we'll see.
Yeah.
What she does in the film and where all this goes. Lots of monsters though. It didn't look as scary as I thought it was as they were kind of pitching it though.
No. Well, that's what led me to. That was the biggest thing that made me go. This has to be Doctor Strange Supreme. Because that's exactly what happened in What If.
Strange Supreme.
Yeah, Doctor Strange Supreme is that's what happened to him in the What If when they introduced that character. Is he absorbs all of these other, beings, these really powerful beings, so that he can himself become more powerful in an attempt to, be powerful enough to use the spell to bring his woman back from the dead.
It's crazy. I want a full-blown trailer. I want a full-blown trailer for that. The thing I will say that threw me for a loop and it's still a mind F for me is the Venom post-credit scene before that with Tom Hardy. We see Tom Hardy at a bar, and, I guess he got pulled into this universe as well, because we saw it at the end of Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah, we knew that.
Right, but long story short, when everything gets fixed and Doctor Strange, puts everything back to normal to make everyone forget who Peter is, Hardy, or I love to say Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock goes back to his universe, but a little piece of the Venom symbiote stays in the MCU universe, which is very, very intriguing and weird, because we all assumed at the end of Let There Be Carnage, when Eddie Brock shifted into the MCU, as you see Jonah Jameson, Spider-Man on the TV, that you're just bringing Venom over now, right? And now that's your Venom in the MCU. But they put him back to the Sonyverse, and just left a symbiote here, saying that that's how the symbiote, a portion of the Venom symbiote gets to the MCU. So who is that piece of the Venom symbiote going to bond with? And so are we going to have two Venoms running around, a Sony Venom and an MCU Venom? Like, this is weird, right?
Dude, well, okay. So there's a lot of things to consider when we talk about this part of it, because this gets into a little bit of where things left off with Spider-Man at the end, where he was not out of the MCU and into the Sonyverse as one might have expected, or as we expected might be the case, leading, by the end of this film, as they move out of contract for Tom Holland, et cetera, et cetera. So by the end of this movie, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Tom Holland, Spider-Man is still in the MCU's universe.
Yeah.
And now they've introduced this. So the big question mark of, how does all of this continue to work with Sony and Marvel, and what are they going to do for going forward? Obviously now we know they're like, yeah, we're going to continue making movies together. But they're still being ambiguous of what that means, what that's going to look like. And it's still kind of up in the air, which I thought we were going to have much more of an answer by the end of this film. And it was going to be a little bit more clear cut as, okay, Tom Holland's going to be over here with Sony. And then maybe at some point they come back and there's crossovers, but they're going to be building over here in the Sonyverse. And that did not happen. And instead, to your point, we get this little piece of the symbiote, or the Venom symbiote, left in the MCU universe, and it's going to be, okay, what does it bond with? My inclination would be we might get the Peter Parker Black Spider-Man, the black suit Spider-Man. So where he takes on the Venom symbiote for a time, until maybe that's part of a movie, where by the end of that we then see somehow the Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock Venom ends up in here, and we finally see the clash between those two characters, which I think everybody wants to see. I know you were really hoping that was going to be in this film. Yeah, I was not.
Remember, I'm not the biggest fan of Tom Hardy Venom in general, right?
That's true.
Like, so even though like continuity wise, it's like, what are you doing? In a weird way, I'm like kind of happy that we might get another MCU version of Venom.
But they're still cooperating, Sony and Marvel. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know that they'll create another Venom. I mean, they could, but because obviously you've got multiple Spider-Man.
And it's like also like, why would you leave that piece of symbiote there? Yeah. So he has to come back and get it, or to make a new Venom.
That's why I lean towards, are we going to get the Venomized version of Spider-Man for a minute, of Tom Holland, Peter Parker, Spider-Man,
which would just reset the Venom thing, where we would get Black Suit Spider-Man, and eventually he would go to the bell tower, would fall off, and then fall on Eddie Brock, who's in the church, repenting right there. So it's like, do we just get another Eddie Brock? But is Tom Hardy going to be okay with like them having two Eddie Brocks or two Venoms at the same time? You got to imagine in his contract somewhere that'd be kind of weird, no?
I guess it depends on what ultimately the storyline is going to do in the end. Like, where are they taking it? Because the one of the big questions now for me is, well, then who is the Spider-Man of Venom's world?
Doesn't have one, at least not that we know of.
Is it supposed to be Andrew Garfield?
We don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know the answer.
And
to
the
that
Morbius
question.
thing is just as weird too, because it's like now, Vulture's in Morbius, as we know, and there's a mural of Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in an alley in that movie. Those are two different universes. That's three.
Right.
That's, two different universes. So where is it? Like, what's happening?
What's happening?
I want answers.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is so confusing because I thought
unless we're all confused and that's supposed to be Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
There's no way.
On the mural.
There's no way. It's clearly Tobey Maguire.
It sure looked like it to me.
Because they even has like the silver webbing, which they always draw him with and stuff like that. I don't know, man. It's just I thought that like Venom was gonna be in this. He was in it technically.
Yeah.
But like he was gonna start fighting with the other villains, forming the Sinister Six, and you'd have that matchup, and it'd lead up. Would end, and maybe that would lead to like, a movie where it's Spider-Man versus Venom. And or maybe the Vulture, but now it's like, what is Morbius? Like, is Morbius? I feel like Morbius isn't even going to give us any answers. At this rate, we're never getting answers. It's just going to be more mystery. They're going to do this and be like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you feel like they've got to resolve this at some point, obviously.
I hope they're not doing like the Lost thing, though, where they're just
planting
things.
Yeah.
Because they don't know where it's going to end. Like, that's the way, we've talked about that several times. Yeah. Like, in storytelling in general, if you don't know where you're going to end and you're just kind of doing things,
it can really turn into a train wreck. Yeah.
But I would hope, because Feige is not like that. He has proved, he's very much like, this is where, you got all like 10 movies, everything's leading to this. So I would hope he knows and they know where this is ultimately going.
I mean, you can tell, I think maybe that's part of the problem, why we're getting such ambiguous tie-ins and little pieces added here and there. Because I think he's trying to leave off-ramps open. You know what I'm saying?
Like, little like scapegoat areas where it's like, well, we didn't say that definitively.
Yeah, because they don't really have, to the public's knowledge, there doesn't appear to be any set agreement for long term. They're kind of piecemealing it and doing like, okay, we're going to do one more. Like right now, even though Amy Pascal did say we're going to do another 3 movies, with Tom Holland and so forth, as of right now, Kevin Feige has basically said there's going to be a 4th Spider-Man movie between the two. So it's like, okay, but that's just one, right? So instead of saying, yeah, they're just not giving us much detail, which, and in the end, it's like, it's fine. But there is a lot of ambiguity still that I thought, honestly, by the end of this movie would be resolved.
For sure.
And really, it was just a huge reset in a way.
Yeah.
But while still, which I expected to some degree, I just thought the reset was going to be, in the end, he was going to be in the Sonyverse. I thought that's where the reset was going to be. They were going to reset the character. He was going to be trapped in this other universe, and he was going to accept that, and it would be a self-sacrificing thing to protect X, Y, or Z. So when they were doing that whole everybody knows who Peter Parker is, and as the movie was going along, that's what I thought they were going to do. It was, everyone's going to forget who you are. Everyone has to forget who you are. And so send me back with them.
Yeah.
And then make them all forget. So he would be somewhere else where he himself would get a chance to start over and be away from that the pain of, having to see, for instance, his MJ.
That was dope. The whole how Andrew Garfield got redemption.
Yes.
Saving. He actually commented on that.
That was great. That was one of the best parts of the movie, I thought.
Where one of the reasons he came back to the film was because in the script he saw that his Spider-Man would get redemption in this movie, and it was like, oh, that's kind of like a full circle moment.
And in some ways, so did Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Dude, no, that whole third act where all 3 Spider-Man, even like the Spider-Man like pep talk with each other, where some guys like, no, you're amazing. No, just say it. You're amazing. Like that whole back and forth, and where they're like, wait, you don't have web shooters? You're organic?
Oh,
it's like,
so good.
Does it come out of any other holes? Like, it's just so funny. He's like, does it ever run out? He's like, well, I did have like a blockage one time, but it was more like a mental thing. Like that whole like little 5-minute thing was really hilarious.
Funny. Everything, you're 100% right. Everything between those 3. And even their one-on-one exchanges was so good.
And the working together,
the best part of the film,
for sure. So like, again, I really enjoyed this film, and I'm I kind of liked how they brought, because again, one of my minor complaints was that Spider-Man was like too much like Iron Man, and he's wearing all these like Iron Spider suits and these, you know, high-tech suits all the time. Where it's like, no, web slingers, probably not with Spider-Man. That's his thing. Like, you know, he's not supposed to be Iron Man. So I'm glad they did bring him back to the more ground level classic Stan Lee, Steve Ditko Spider-Man. And now I'm just very curious to see where that goes. But more so, what does this multiverse mean now with all these things and Venom and Morbius and, you know, Vulture? Like, where are all his villains going to lie? What's what? How did Vulture get into the Morbius universe? Or is Morbius just in the MCU? I don't know.
I don't know either. My initial thought was that Morbius timeline may end up being, it may show him for some reason having been also transported, temporarily. Well, I don't even know. How could you do that in the middle of that movie? Never mind. Now that I'm thinking about it out loud, I don't know that it makes sense. I have no idea, but my initial thought, just to complete it, is there some kind of a weird crossover moment that's supposed to coincide with the events of No Way Home, where the multiverses, characters from the multiverse, the two different universes collided or crossed over somehow, one to the other? I don't know, but I guess we're going to find that out. Or maybe that's the Adrian Toomes from that universe? Hashtag question mark?
But, I mean, maybe. Maybe.
I don't know.
I just want to answer. I want to see Morbius, and it got pushed back to April, so we have to wait longer. Like, I literally, I want to see the movie, but it's the Sony movies. In all honesty, I'm not usually overexcited for. But I want to see it mostly to see where it lines up, because it's all supposed to connect somehow, right? I mean, Vulture's in it,
I guess.
Mainly because of the Vulture cameo alone. I want to know, what does that mean, and how did he get there if this isn't the main universe, the main MC universe? I'm
kind of concerned that we're going to watch that movie. It's going to be largely about an origin of Morbius. We're going to get a couple of small little teases.
That's probably
it's going to leave us asking the exact same questions by the end.
That's where I'm at. That's where everything else is done thus far. But I still want to see it.
Again, that wouldn't be so, like, I don't want to say annoying. If it wasn't for the fact that it's not like we're getting like 2-3 movies that are going to answer this question in this year or in the next 2 years. These movies are really spread out. You know what I mean? Like, we just had Venom 2, and it just gave us a tiny little thing in the post-credit scene or the mid-credit scene, whichever it was. And then the Spider-Man, it was the same thing. It was these tiny little nuggets. You know, even the villains that appeared and crossed over in No Way Home, right? Green Goblin, Sandman, Electro, etc. Even those villains, they cured all of the villains before sending them back. So what ramifications does that have? And so I'm wondering, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, is that going to play in somehow? Like, we tampered with the multiverse. We cured these characters, which will entirely change the futures of these universes. So how is that create part of the problem? Right? Because now they're also aware of a multiverse, and you sent them back not only cured and different from the way they were before, but also they're now aware of a multiverse. And some of these people are scientific geniuses, like Harry Osborn and Doc Ock.
Yep.
Right? So that could very much be like part of the problem, that where some of this goes. If so, that would mean a lot more crossovers with Sony, which is why I kind of leaned away from it.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. It's like...
And Wanda, based on the trailer, Wanda's going to play a very different role based on the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Of Doctor Strange than I thought. I thought Wanda was going to be part of the problem. And in the trailer, Doctor Strange is going to her for help.
For sure. I think she's, I told you my theory. I think she's going to be responsible for bringing the mutants into the MCU. But who knows?
This was your theory, and I think that's a really good theory. Could that be the case? Maybe, but it still doesn't answer the question, because at the end of Wanda Vision, it seemed like she was going down a dark road.
So dark. Yes, she was.
Right?
Yeah.
She ends with the Darkhold. She's full on the Scarlet Witch. She's hearing voices.
But that teaser trailer,
she looks like she's at Wonder Gore Mountain.
As we know from like all these trailers, especially No Way Home, like they're not very true to what happens in the movies.
That's true.
They throw you for a loop, like. So I don't know, but we do need to move on. We got more stuff to talk about. We can talk about Spider-Man all day, but Hawkeye, Tim.
Hawkeye
Finale. I really loved the series. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a ton of fun. It had that Christmas vibe, which I dug, and it was right around Christmas. Very family oriented, obviously, which is my favorite aspect of the show. I love how it dealt with like Hawkeye being a dad and a father, and how he just wanted to get home for Christmas. That was my favorite aspect of the whole show, and it was implemented so well, I think. But even showing his relationship with Kate Bishop, who was introduced in the series, like I thought they did that really well.
Yep.
And they ended it really well, like where it was at, where they're essentially like teammates now. So I was really, again, spoilers, sorry. This whole episode, this whole podcast, spoilers for everything we talk about. Book of Boba Fett, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, anything. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. So if you're not up to date with any of those shows, know that now.
Just to sum it up.
But I was hoping they weren't going to get rid of Hawkeye, like kill him, or like he's like retired, like here's the mantle to you. And they didn't. They left it open enough where it's like now it's probably going to be like in the comic books where they team up for a bit and that they're just working together. Like she's essentially his sidekick now, which I'm like, that is what I wanted. So I'm happy they did it.
It very much looked like we're going to get another season.
Yes, for sure. The twist with the mom. Did you like the twist with her mom? Her mom was actually like one of the big bads.
Yeah, but it wasn't a twist for me. Like it was totally where I
it's
expected
kind of
to go.
Well, what about like
even Kingpin coming in at the end?
What about Swordsman? Because we didn't know
Swordsman.
He was innocent. He was a good guy.
Yeah, she
was freaking working him.
Yes,
and he didn't know it.
That part was a surprise. I expected him to be a villain of some kind.
And the best part is he
was
care.
Awesome.
He didn't care. He was like, oh, it's okay. And so, he's just fighting. He's just happy to be alive, fighting people with a sword.
I'm a little off my game.
Yeah. I love it.
So good. That guy, I think, was one of my favorite characters.
He was
in the entire
awesome.
Series. Really good.
Because when you find out the second to last episode, or towards the end, that like he actually isn't bad, and
good old Jack.
Yeah, and Kate Bishop was the one framing him.
Right.
That was awesome. So everything he said leading up to that, to Kate and her mom, was totally sincere, and he's just a good guy.
And you had you thought he was like fooling you the whole time. When they were taking him out in handcuffs, he's like, "Don't worry about it. We'll get it figured out. It'll be fine." And you're like, this guy is totally a serial killer. And he turns out it's just the way he is in the end.
I don't think enough people are talking about Swordsman.
Tony Dalton did a great job.
He was fantastic, hilarious, super likable. Like, again, he was just like, he was one of those guys where you could drop like a boulder on his car. It's fine. It's fine. We'll work it out.
Just get another one.
Yeah, it's okay. If he doesn't come back for season 2 and work with Kate and Clint in some way, I'm gonna be so mad, because in the comics, he's the one who, one of the guys who trains Hawkeye.
Right.
He goes rogue and starts stealing and stuff like that, and ends up a bad guy. But it's obviously they're going a different route in the MCU, so I want them to keep him good and be like a friend, like long term with Clint and Kate now, because he was great.
Yeah, he was really good. He was really good. Him and I want to hear who your favorite characters of the series were. I think my 2 favorite characters of the series were actually the side characters. They're
the
both
LARPing
side
guys?
characters. Well, oh my gosh, I loved the LARPing team as well. But no, Florence Pugh as
great.
Yelena.
She was great.
So good. She's really
every single.
good as
She's
Yelena.
been in Black Widow, obviously.
Yes.
And now this, in both appearances, I feel like flawless.
Killer.
Yeah.
Just so good. And then Tony Dalton as Jack.
Yeah.
He was really, those 2 I think were my favorite characters, and they had smaller roles. That's not to say I don't love the other characters. The other characters were all great. Mm-hmm. And the story was way better than I anticipated in terms, because I thought it was going to be fun, but it was the story was just really, they introduced Kate Bishop in a really smart way, and in a way that made you excited to have her enter in. They did it smart. This is what I'm saying. All the times that we talk about, like, introduce these new characters in a smart way and integrate it into these existing universes in a way that feels organic, right? That's always what we're saying and talking about it, right? They did that really well in this show. They integrated Kate Bishop into the Marvel universe in a really, really smart way. There's been some other characters more recently that you felt like they really didn't do that with. Like, for instance, I would say Captain Marvel is one.
For sure.
Is an example of what I'm talking about. But like Yelena Belova, same thing. They integrated her so well, and it's such a good casting, and it just feels very seamless. Kate Bishop, I think, it falls in that category. Very, very seamless, great integration in the Marvel Universe. She's teaming up with Hawkeye, and they left it there instead of doing this abrupt handoff, which
all that.
I think everybody was kind of anticipating that to some degree.
In the finale where they're, in what that's was it Rockefeller Center?
Rockefeller
Center. They're in
Center,
Rockefeller Center with the Christmas tree and stuff. And he's like, "Look, I didn't kill your sister. I love Natasha. You know what I mean?" Right. And she finally's like, "Oh, you're telling the truth. Like you didn't do it." Yeah. Like that whole thing, that exchange was really, really cool. But one of my favorites. So there's two scenes that stand out for me in the entire series. I want to see if they stand out for you too. One, when Clint's earpiece breaks.
Yes.
So Kate has to translate, basically write down what Clint's son is saying on the phone.
Yep.
Just real good character building for both of them.
That was episode 2.
It was, really just awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, heartfelt, great scene for just every character involved. So that one, but also the Yelena scene with Kate in her burnt down apartment.
Really good.
That whole thing with the mac and cheese, how it starts off really friendly and jokey and sarcastic, but then like she just hits a switch and it gets serious.
Yeah. When
she starts talking about her sister Natasha. I thought like all that was like the transition, flawless. Those are the two standout scenes for me.
Yeah, both of those are fantastic. Definitely among my two favorite scenes, I think, of the entire series. One is absolutely that scene between Kate Bishop and Hawkeye and Clint Barton, where his earpiece breaks and he's having to talk to Son and she's helping. That was just such a smart. I think that was probably my favorite and most. For me, that was the most well-written scene of the entire series.
I'd agree.
It was just really, really smart in terms of like character building, development, and you see, that was it was a solidification of their partnership.
But they both did so well. Or like because
really,
Jeremy
really
Renner,
good.
Amazing delivery.
Yes.
And Kate Haley Steinfeld, amazing delivery as well.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And then you had the scene between Yelena Belova and Clint. At the end there. I just thought that was really impactful. Both of those characters did such a good job. Clint Barton's Hawkeye and his relationship with Hawkeye was already a very meaningful one in the MCU. And then you introduce Yelena and Black Widow, and you saw that sister relationship there and the backstory of Natasha and what she went through with her family. That was kind of a thrown together family, but still a family of their own. And they did a really good job of that. Florence Pugh she is such a great casting. She just nails that character.
I love her sarcasm.
Really great job.
It's so good.
Yeah, her delivery is so good. Everything from when she's, the emotional moments all the way through to when she's being sarcastic, like in that
and her accent
scene.
Helps. It's great.
So good.
It helps so much.
Yeah, so good. But there were several really, really well-written moments, like even when they're in that cafeteria or that diner. And he's explaining to her and he's telling her like this life comes with a price.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You take some things with you in the end. That was a great, really
which was really
scene.
It was a really clever parallel to like real heroes like firefighters, police officers, paramedics, like first responders in general, where it's like same thing where like you're out there, for instance, something like 9/11, you're out there.
Yeah.
You're never going to forget that. Like it takes, it takes pieces of you and you take that stuff home with you. So I thought it was really smart in the sense to like, obviously in this world, there's like superheroes, but then to also, it kind of also works with like real world heroes, which I thought was really cool from a writing standpoint.
Without doubt. And to that point, they did a really smart job of integrating that LARPing team. Yeah. And they were all first responders.
Yes, really
so
cool.
So it kind of tied that together and brought that element in there even stronger.
I'm shocked
that was just such a smart add to the series too, was those, sidekicks, when in that one scene toward the end where they put on their suits and they're like, it's time. And they put on all their suits and everything like that. And they go and they help them. Really, really smart, really fun.
I'm actually a little surprised how well written this series was. Yeah. Just because for me, like, as far as like emotional beats, because I don't know if it's because I'm sappy now, but like with the whole like family elements, how anyone could be family, relationship, just being a dad, it resonated more for me as a story than any other of the Disney Plus Marvel shows. Because the other ones are more fantastical and space and time travel and witches and androids. Where this one, you know, it's Hawkeye. He's a human, so it hit a lot closer to home.
Yep.
And he really is like the emotional backbone for the MCU. So like the day he goes, I'm gonna shed a tear. I'm like, no, not Hawkeye.
It really did. This series really did solidify Hawkeye's place
For sure.
among the character, the core. You know, we'll call them the legacy characters of the MCU. That he was just such a backbone, heart and soul character of that early group. And this series did a really good job of that. One of the other cool things that I liked was they talked about this Rolex throughout the series.
Yes.
And they kept looking for this Rolex that was from the Avengers mansion. And by the end, he finally gets home. Clint finally gets home to his family, makes it just in time for Christmas. He brings Kate, and he sits down to talk to his wife, and he gives her the watch. And we find out that she's former S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, that she's Mockingbird.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
Neither did I. So I was like, wow, that's a cool ad.
Yep.
So we find out she's Mockingbird. She's former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And that's another piece that tells you, like, we're probably going to get another season of Hawkeye.
I hope so, because it was great.
Yeah, it was so good.
A lot of fun.
And then, of course, the addition of Kingpin.
That was the last thing we have to mention for sure. Yeah.
And again, we know that Echo's getting her own series. So is it Hawkeye going to get another season, or is Echo going to get a series?
Well,
and we're going to see Kate Bishop and Hawkeye and, you know, now Mockingbird and his wife and Kingpin. Are they going to be part of that series? But Daredevil appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home.
And Kingpin is in Hawkeye.
Yeah. So it's like, where's it all going to clash?
Because you know he's not dead.
No.
He's not dead. It's actually, you know, I'm not the only one to point this out. A lot of people are pointing it out that what they did, how Echo like shot him and like the camera goes up and you don't actually see him get shot, is very reminiscent to the comics where Echo shoots Kingpin in the face in the comic books, but it doesn't kill him, it blinds him.
Right.
So I'm wondering if when they bring Kingpin back, he'll be blinded and obviously get healed somehow, just like in the comic books, because there's no way you bring in freaking Kingpin. The last episode, mind you, you see a still of him, a tease at the end of the second last episode, and then you bring him in fully for the finale,
right,
and then kill him permanently.
Yeah.
There's no way, especially with Daredevil now in the MCU. There's no way. He's not dead. He's not dead. There's no way.
The fact that they had him in a Hawaiian shirt like the whole time,
did you feel
that made me laugh? It just brought me joy, is what I'm saying. That just brought a smile to my face. It was so good, and they did not make him. They did not use any kind of visual effects.
He was more padded though. He was bigger.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I'm saying they didn't make him like that huge monstrous the way some of the rumors were floating around.
Some of the people are saying, did you think they because you've seen the Daredevil, the Netflix series, right? Did you think he was overpowered in the series compared to what we saw in Daredevil? Because that's been such a topic of debate. Vincent D'Onofrio actually commented on it to the fans saying, look, like, no, I don't think this version of him is overpowered. It's the same thing, because you got to remember in that series in season 2, I believe he said he straight up chucks Daredevil, like picks him up and throws him across the room. But people were saying because, like, you know, the taser didn't affect him. He got hit by a car,
he gets
and a
hit
wall,
with an arrow,
and he just keeps getting up.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, that's just Kingpin. That's like he's he's the wall.
Yeah.
He's just a freaking like mammoth of a man.
I didn't get that at all. In fact, there's scenes in the Daredevil where he's in prison.
Oh, and he's just,
he's just a beast, an absolute monster.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that at all. I had no problems with how powerful he was. I thought it was right in line, and certainly in the realm of capability. You know,
it's like comic Kingpin.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about the comics. I'm talking about from what we saw from him.
Just comparing,
Yeah, it was within that realm. And, you know, if you want to get like really super technical and nitpicky about it, then like maybe you could make the argument, but I had no issue.
He doesn't bleed from the marrows, huh? Who gets up from a car crash? It literally put him through a wall.
Yeah, it did. And, you know, my kids said the same thing. They're like, that dude would be dead. I was like, it's Kingpin. You have to understand. This dude is like a beast.
You're talking about a world where witches and androids and gods with thunder live.
And when I brought up Kingpin, I should have mentioned right up the top, like it ends with, you know, them seeming like, you know, Echo shoots him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reason I emphasize it is because I'm the same as you. He's not dead.
No.
It's It's either he did get shot and it's going to be similar to the comics, to where he recovers and it just ends up blinding him in one eye or something like that, or there's some other interaction there that we didn't see. Where he grabs the gun, or what she shoots in the air
just to scare him or something.
Just something to that effect.
I couldn't do it, Uncle. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, which I don't think that's going to be the case, but we do know she's getting a show, and I just cannot believe that they're going to introduce Daredevil in Spider-Man No Way Home. And then, by the way, that scene and where he catches the brick.
Yes.
In No Way Home.
Yes, I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah, I'm a really good attorney. Really, really good. But they're not going to introduce these two characters simultaneously, essentially, and then just kill Kingpin off. I would be stunned. Wow, oops. Just throwing your phone around.
Yeah, I need the new version.
But I would be stunned if that was the case.
Yeah, for sure. It's exactly what I said a minute ago. So I agree 100%.
Now, overall, I love this series, but where would you rank it?
Oh, man.
Because you were like, this could end up being my favorite. Of the Disney Plus shows.
I think it is. I think it might be. It's hard because Loki is fighting with it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's just because for me personally, this one hit more beats with me that I related to more. It's with I love the humanism of it, which is, I guess, is a big reason why I love Batman so much. He's my favorite character because he's one of the most relatable in the sense he's human, he's just a guy and all that stuff. So I think this still might, I'll say it's tied with Loki. For me.
That's fair. I think just stylistically.
Because they're very different too, is
totally
the thing.
Different.
This was night and day to Loki and vice versa. So, it's a tie because they're so different.
Yeah. I think stylistically it just really resonated with you.
It did. I love the ground level stuff. Yeah. Just the interaction was funny. It was serious. It was heartfelt. We got Kingpin. It confirmed him in the MCU. It was just, I love even how they introduced Kate with the whole Battle of New York in the very first episode. I thought that was a great way to be why is she obsessed with archery and Hawkeye? Why does she want to, be a superhero? Just hats off to everyone involved in this series. I really, really dug it.
Yeah, I'm with you. For me, it still lands at number 2, my second favorite.
That's super solid, though.
Yeah, but it's
super solid.
A very strong 2. I just love Loki, and it really is, I think, similar to how Hawkeye just resonated with you stylistically. Loki did for me. Stylistically, it just really landed for me. But it's 1-2 very tight.
If we were at the beginning of the year, if we were to lay out WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, What If, Loki, and Hawkeye, would you think Hawkeye would have been number 2?
No.
Right?
Initially, no.
Because we all know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you all know I definitely didn't think Hawkeye was going to land at number 1 for me. And it's it's my number 1. It's my number 1 Disney Marvel Plus show thus far. So there you have it.
Although I will say,
I ate my words.
You did. So in that way, it really turned out to be a sleeper. But it was not a sleeper in the surprise department in terms of a massive implication for the MCU.
No.
So it didn't land there.
No.
Where I thought it could. It could sneak up on us. It didn't, but it was a sleeper in terms of how good it actually turned out to be.
I think that lent to it. Its enjoyability, at least for me, though.
Yeah, you didn't have to think about.
You didn't have to think about anything. It was just a concise story because you didn't have to theory well, is that going to connect to this? Oh, are they bringing in the multiverse? Or it's just it's just a good story.
Yeah,
just streamlined. So a lot of good comic books are just one shots, just a solid good story. But the last bit, Tim, Book of Boba Fett,
and that is ongoing.
We're on episode 2 at the time of shooting this.
That's right. The third episode is not out, even though by the time you guys are listening and watching that,
it will be. Yeah,
the third episode will be out, but we have not seen episode 3 just yet. We're 2 episodes in, and for me, it's a little bit slower. But I want to hear your thoughts on it as a whole, because I know you are so knee deep.
I'm knee deep in
the Mandalorian and Star Wars lore.
I think that's why I'm enjoying it more, because I'm able to pull out a lot more of the Easter eggs and stuff. So I'm really enjoying the series. This was this is out of every show of the year, even whether you're talking about The Witcher on Netflix or any of the Disney Plus shows. This was the one I'm most excited for because I love The Mandalorian.
Yes.
As you do, I know.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite TV shows that's ongoing. So when I found out at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, the Filoni and Favreau were going to take Boba Fett, which they introduced in Season 2, and give him his own series, and they were writing and directing involved with it and producing, I'm like, this is everything I've wanted. Boba Fett is finally going to get justice. Because that's the funny thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is he's become such an iconic character in pop culture. But Boba Fett has only had 4 lines of dialogue in the original Star Wars trilogy for a total of like 4+ minutes of screen time. 4 lines of dialogue, around 4 minutes of screen time, and he's become one of the most recognizable and iconic characters in cinema history. That's insane. So for a character to be that popular and essentially have no screen time to finally get his own series, yes. So I was super excited. And Favreau and Filoni. But I'm with you. I get that it's a slow burn, but I'm loving the slow burn. I kind of like the backstory because they're explaining everything that was established in season 2 of Mandalorian, right? Because we knew when we first saw Boba Fett in the beginning of season 2, where they revealed he was alive, you're like, why has he got a gaffy stick? Why is he like all Tusken Raidered out? Why is he like a sand person? And we are getting all that explanation in here out the gate. The pilot episode, we freaking see how he escaped the Sarlacc pit. Pretty dope.
That was fun.
Do I wish it was a longer sequence? Yes, but it was still cool nonetheless. Then we're, I will say my one gripe, especially with the first episode, is it seems like they portrayed Boba Fett a little weaker than they did in season 2 of The Mandalorian, where
not a little bit.
Yeah, I'm being nice.
You're being very, very light on that.
Weaker than in season 2, because when you get his full introduction in season 2 is when he goes to like Mando and he's like, hey, you got my dad's armor. It's rightfully mine. Give it to me. He does. And then he starts laying into like 10 stormtroopers, like brutally shoots down a freaking Empire, like starship, like all this stuff, like laying into them Brock Lesnar WWE style.
Even when he's talking, even when he's, confronting the other Mandalorians.
Casca and stuff. Yeah. He's just a BA.
Yeah. He's just like, come at me, bro.
So in this, he seems a lot more reserved, weaker, where he says it. It's in the trailer, even if you haven't seen the episodes, where Jabba ruled with fear. He wants to rule with respect. So he's even telling Fennec, Fennec's like, hey, we need to kill this guy.
Right.
And she's like, no, I'm not going to. So he's very much reserved. It seems like it's on purpose, though, I guess. But it's still a little weird, especially in the first episode where, like, those assassins that were sent after him. It's like, why didn't you just like lay them out like you did to all the stormtroopers? Right. I get it. Maybe they're a little, more trained or whatnot. But the common thing on the internet is like, why don't you just use your jetpack? Like fly up and like freaking just start shooting people with your flamethrower and stuff. Like, I don't get it. So that's my only gripe. But I'm really liking the story building. Episode 2 was freaking dope. I thought. I love where that's going. We see the Hutt twins, which was crazy. And I told you right after, I'm like, this means there's a possibility in Kenobi we will see Jabba the Hutt.
No, we have to.
Right, but now we know they're doing it in here. Yeah. They're literally doing the CGI and spending the money to do it. So it's like, are we gonna see him?
Yeah, I mean,
in Kenobi,
he's ruling the roost of Tatooine at the time within the time frame.
So, but this like kind of cements it though, right? Where it's like you already have 2 Hutts in here. But bigger for me, I've been really big into Star Wars comic books.
Yes, you've been obsessing ever since Mandalorian.
So I wish you were watching it with me when this happened, because I was like slapping my couch. So when the freaking Hutts come out, and Boba and Fennec go out there like, what the freak? What are they doing? Freaking, you see this black gladiator-looking Wookiee who just looks like a black gladiator Wookiee to people who don't know who the freak he is.
Right.
This is Black Chrysanthemum. This dude was first introduced in the 2015 Darth Vader comic book, which I have, by the way, and it's shooting up in price because of the show now.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But he worked with Boba Fett, so they have a past, worked with Boba Fett to hunt down, they were working for Vader to hunt down Luke, because this is in between like the original trilogy and whatnot, where Vader found out like, oh, I have a son, so he hires Boba and Black Chrysanthemum as bounty hunters to be like, get me the Skywalker kid, I need him. So they've worked together in the past, only for them now to finally introduce some live action. So when they're looking at each other, if you read the comics or Star Wars lore, they have a past. So you're like, what's gonna happen?
So when he's staring Boba down in that scene, there was a reason.
There was a reason.
But
it's also crazy because in the comic books, if you notice, he has a scar on his left eye. That was when he got into an altercation with Obi-Wan Kenobi in the comic books. So there's like all this lore that I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? But Black Chrysanthemum in the comics is also known as like the baddest Wookiee.
Yes.
Like
He's basically like the Rambo of Wookiees.
right. He's like a gladiator. You know, like in Ragnarok, like with the battle, you know, and all that stuff. He's basically like fought on that kind of battle world where he was a gladiator. His freaking knuckles are like infused with metal now, and he has brass knuckles on top of that. He's probably gonna throw Boba around. Boba will probably win in the end, but he's gonna throw him around, and it's gonna be great to see.
Yeah, that was a really fun ad. That entire scene was really fun. I would argue that was probably the coolest scene of the entire series so far. Was that the other thing was when they introduced the Hutts and they brought the twins in. That was the moment where I was like, now we're getting somewhere.
Because they're bringing in like the classic legacy.
The one character, I don't remember the character's name. I think it's he works for the mayor. Mock Shies, I think is his name.
I believe so.
Anyway, the one who comes and he says, I have no tribute. And in the first episode.
Which I love that guy.
Yeah, and he's so slimy, and you can just tell this guy's up to no good right from the get, right? And he comes in and he introduces himself, and then he has another interaction with him. And it's just, you know, it's kind of been building. And up to that point, throughout the first episode and then a good portion of the second, you kind of already mentioned it, is that was one of a couple of things that I was kind of like, nothing was bad. It was just kind of like, it surprised me a little bit how much slower the pacing felt. But up to that point, it was like Boba was borderline a pacifist, which ran so contrary to everything that we had seen in The Mandalorian. He was just this absolute savage in that show. And I think what added to that expectation was that Robert Rodriguez had come out and made comments to the effect of, if you thought he was a beast in The Mandalorian, wait until you see him in his own series.
I mean, we got 5 episodes left as of shooting this, so
that's why it's not affecting me. I'm not really upset about it or anything like that, because we're still early in the show. Even though we don't have a ton of episodes left. We got 5 episodes left as of right now. But, you know, there's still plenty of time, and I fully anticipate this is being written by Jon Favreau. This second episode, with the introduction of this concept that the Hutt twins are wanting Tatooine, and there's like this now conflict there, and these, you know, just you can tell there's now we're starting to get somewhere. Yeah, and I fully expect, even though for me the first 2 episodes were good but a little bit slow, and everything with the Tusken Raiders I really liked. I actually loved that they gave us a little bit more backstory around the Tusken Raiders in terms of their culture and all that kind of stuff in live action. But it just kind of felt a little bit slow, and a lot of story building, which, you know, was still fun. It added to Star Wars mythology, but I can see where probably the first 3 episodes are going to be building, and then the last 4 are probably going to get nuts.
Yeah, I'm hoping that episode 3, which when people are listening to this will probably be out, that it's already like, you know, up and going. But did you also notice in episode 2 the massive Easter egg of the Tashi station?
Yes.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was freaking crazy. That's what I'm saying. Like, people are saying, like, it's weird. So I'm like, if you are a diehard Star Wars fan, there is so many things.
It's endless.
To pick out that you're like, I'm sorry, the Tashi station? Like, Luke mentions that in episode 4, getting the power converters. And there's actually a deleted scene on YouTube.
That's right.
With the 2 people that were in the 2 humans that were in the Tashi station, Cammy and Fixer. And they put them back in the Tashi station. They were Luke's friends. Cammy was actually the girl that Luke liked when he was living on Tatooine. Yeah. So I'm like, this is good on you, Favreau. Like, the attention to detail,
the deep dives
is freaking crazy. So we now know Cammy and Fixer are still on Tatooine.
What's remarkable is that they're doing it. And this is why both of us have just praised Favreau and Filoni endlessly as they've been doing and kind of taking the reins of the live action Star Wars shows, is because these people, because those Easter eggs, that's purely for the fans.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You would never know if you were not a diehard Star Wars fan.
Anybody who's coming to this, even with like intermediate eyes, you'd miss that entirely. They are even going so far as to add those deep cut elements of Star Wars that are just for the die-hard, old-school Star Wars fan. So they're really trying to give meat to everybody
it's
across,
great.
and it just makes these shows very rich and fun. And in the terms of this show so far, it's made it more fun than it would have been otherwise, because the first 2 episodes was a lot of story building, and it was a bit slow as far as things happening and where we're going.
It makes sense though in the sense that, again, Boba Fett originally, up until now, has only had like 4 minutes of screen time. So you have to we've only had hearsay of this guy. We don't really even know what his personality is much.
Very much so, yeah.
So it's like this is establishing that for the character. Sure, we've had like the in-canon Marvel comics and stuff like that, but like it's still a little different than live action.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of his story, because 4 hours of screen time in the original series.
In the original series, yeah.
We've gotten a lot more Boba Fett in Clone Wars and Rebels. And
but live action I feel like is
comics
different though. Like you have to, especially now they're explaining how he survived and all that stuff.
That's where this is really going to come in and large is they already gave us a lot of his backstory from his youth.
Right.
When he was young. So we already got that.
Yeah.
This is filling the gaps between Return of the Jedi and what's happening after the Rebel Alliance defeated the Empire. So it's filling in that small, how did Boba Fett survive and all that stuff. So that's like some big, huge chunks of like fan questions of how, because nobody even knew if he survived until he was reintroduced in The Mandalorian. And now we know, and now they're giving us, this is how that happened. I wasn't, I didn't think that when they showed how, it was kind of like okay.
Wish it was a little longer.
Yeah, I wish it was a little bit, but at the same time, it was still good. I love the Tusken Raider element of it. But it was and this is one of my other beefs. I have one other beef about this show so far, and I don't know what it's contributed to it the most, but it does feel from a production standpoint, it feels like a small step down from The Mandalorian. The production value does not quite feel like it's on the same par as The Mandalorian.
I kind of feel that, I kind of see what you're saying with episode 1, but episode 2,
it was improved.
I didn't feel that way. Especially, I mean, the train sequence alone, that was like, how much money did this cost?
Yeah.
But like, even like the sets, like the Tashi Station and stuff like that in that fight scene, which was very Terminator, by the way.
Very Terminator.
Where he goes in there, he even steals the bikes. I'm like, this is great. They did that on purpose. I'm like, that's amazing. It's like, here, tip it out, James Cameron. But I didn't feel like, I wonder if it's going to be like a build-up to like, as it goes on. Because especially with these rumors coming out, which I'm trying to stay away from, big things are coming the closer we creep towards the finale.
It's true.
So I'm wondering if like, the last 2 episodes of the season is where they're going to save the big stuff, which I would think so.
Yeah, I anticipate that. My thinking on it, and I could be wrong, and it could just be my perception. But my thinking on it was that the first episodes, the early episodes of this show, were likely shot during some of the more stringent and difficult portions of the pandemic.
Probably.
So my wonder is did that play a role, and that just make it more difficult? Were they short-handed? Were they short-staffed in terms of like crew, all that kind of a thing? Were they having harder times? Because I know that they've also been dealing with kind of issues regarding the use of the what do they call the
volume?
The volume. Thank you. They've been kind of like trying to fit in because originally there wasn't many of them. They've been building more of those type of studios around the country using the Unreal Engine and all that kind of stuff. But so I don't know what exactly contributed to it the most, but it did improve in the second. But the first episode, it did feel from a production value, it did feel a small step down.
I feel like after the second episode though, like this whole like how the Tusken Raiders like basically like took him into slavery. Then they realized, oh, you're valuable. Then they realized, oh, you're helping us. You're one of us. And at the end of that episode, they do the whole thing with him where he gets the robe and he makes his own gaffy stick, which was awesome, by the way. And then he does does the tribal dance with them. And now he's a Tusken. He's an honorary Tusken Raider. And that whole dream sequence, that trippy acid sequence,
very cool,
where you get new scenes of him as a kid, him watching his dad in the Slave One fly off, and you see like I would assume the CGI, like they recreated him as a kid again. That was all new footage. You see him on Camino and stuff. I'm like, that is amazing. So, but they kind of cemented it at the end where it's like, this is how he got in with the Tuskens.
Well,
so I'm hoping we move on now and just do more present stuff.
Yeah, my guess is that we might get some of that scattered throughout, or at least throughout the first 3 or 4 episodes.
But the second episode was like 80% the past.
It was.
It was like
some of that looked like it could have coincided with stuff you see in the Fallen Order and even Bad Batch.
Possibly, yeah.
Some of the stuff you saw in the Bad Batch, where they're on Kamino and the destruction of Kamino. So, I mean, I don't know where they're going to take it all, but Bad Batch is Dave Filoni, and so they could absolutely toy with that. Because it's within the timeline of Boba's life.
Well, I'm wondering because Dave Filoni is he wrote episode 6 of the series. It's only episode 7 is the finale. So he wrote the second to last episode of this season. Every other one Favreau did.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That would lead you to believe that it's because it has something directly to do with a character that Dave Filoni created. Let the speculation begin.
I know, and he's created a ton. The most near and dear to him, though, is, of course, Ahsoka
Tano.
Which, he's working on right now for that live-action series. So I'm wondering, are we going to get Ahsoka? Are we going to get Thrawn? Is Mando going to be in that episode? Is Grogu? Luke? People are like, could we get another Luke cameo? He's a BA jet. He's like
Solo.
peak Jedi at this point. Han Solo.
Yeah.
And then if that's episode 6, what are you doing for the finale?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
don't know. We're very early, and there is
so much fun.
There
the other Easter egg,
is a lot of fun.
8D8, the little task slave droid, the little white guy.
Yeah.
Because he was he was a torture droid in Return of the Jedi. You see him torturing droids and stuff when they capture C-3PO and stuff. I'm like, that's another, like, remember this guy? He's still here. He's still here.
Funny.
It's like, I love all that little stuff where we have actual diehard Star Wars fans making these shows. And even when it's slow, like the first 2 episodes were a little slow, it's still so much fun because you're like, oh my God, it's ED8. Oh my God, it's Tashi Station. Oh my God, and just you're like, this is crazy. They're putting Blacker Sanson in here. This is his first appearance live action ever. That's amazing.
I'm very excited about where that could go.
Yeah, are we gonna get Dr. Aphra? Because there was rumor she was gonna get a series.
Yeah, that absolutely could happen.
Because she's around here too, and she's a very popular fan favorite character as well from the comics. So
I'll be very curious to see what they do. Because my expectation, even though the first couple of episodes were a little bit slower than I thought. I'm expecting for them to do some crazy stuff, just like they've done with Mandalorian, man. It's Dave Filoni. It's Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I have zero doubts that by the end of this, we're gonna all get some jaw drop for Star Wars fans, especially like that Luke Skywalker moment at the end of Mandalorian season 2, where people were freaking out.
I'm telling you, we're gonna get everything.
Some of that
the Monday that it's the finale, because obviously it airs on Wednesday. Like, I think I'm deleting every social media app.
I think it's only smart.
I'm not going on YouTube. I'm not doing anything. I'm not answering certain people's texts because people are jerks. I have a certain friend who thinks things aren't spoilers, but they're spoilers.
Yes. Good Lord. But yeah, I love I'm really enjoying it. And I'm very excited to see what these guys do by the end, because I'm expecting there's any number of insane things, but what they've introduced in episode 2, especially, it's like, oh, that could lead to some fun.
That's true. Well, that's our thoughts on Spider-Man: No Way Home, Hawkeye, and the first 2 episodes of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
that's so what we think.
We've caught up on the big ticket items.
There we go.
Now we'll start getting into some of the smaller ticket items and comics in the next episode, as well as anything else that comes up between now and then, like episode 3 of Boba Fett.
There you go. And watch season 2 of The Witcher. Actually, watch season 1. You haven't watched the first season yet, have you?
I watched the first 2 episodes.
Okay. You need to watch it.
I think I watched the first full episode, and then I might have watched a portion of the second episode.
Because you're a bigger fantasy guy than me, with Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. And this is in that Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, type world. And the monsters are awesome. Plus, I just love Henry Cavill. He's just fun.
Yeah.
He's a BA.
I do miss me some Cavill.
Anyway, guys, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.